Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Wednesday, it is another day, another episode in the never-ending Everton soap opera, soap drama that is Everton Football Club. This has been a 20, 30, 40 year running soap opera that has finally reached the point where I never thought it would get to be perfectly honest with you. Managerial candidates coming out on national media and talking about basically their desperation to join Everton Football Club, going from 1 minute a specific managerial candidate not wanting the job to the next minute them talking about how much they want the job. Obviously there's been a protest tonight at Goodison Park as well, and yeah, it's just another typical day in Everton Football Club history, isn't it really? When will we ever have a normal day, where nothing really happens and everything's just content and, things are just sailing along? It'll never be like that, will it? There will always be something going on. It is another managerial update video. We are going to get into the managerial discussions a little bit later on. But before we do that, I want to talk about the protest for a second. For those of you that didn't know, there was a protest at Goodison Park today. I believe it started at 7 o'clock at the Dixie Dean statue. I was going to try and get down there myself, but unfortunately I didn't get home from being out until literally about 7:45, and I assumed at that point that it would be near enough over, and by the time I'd got home and settled, it finished up. But it was again more protests in the opposition of the board and the board's running of this football club, and specifically how this football club is being dragged into the dirt and into the ground by this board for the last 5 or 6 years or so. It seemed from the videos and images that I've seen, for the most part, a very peaceful protest. Everton songs being sung, of course, as you would expect, banners being portrayed, and it seems it was about it was about 200 or 300 Evertonians there, which is an absolutely fantastic turnout. And listen, some people will agree with protests, some people won't agree with protests, and whatever your feeling is on them, I think we can all agree that we all want better for our football club. We all demand better from our football club, and it's about time that those at the top of the football club demanded better as well. I have seen an image that has been going around of somebody spray painting a picture of Bill Kenwright at Goodison Park. Now, listen, whatever you think about Bill Kenwright, I don't personally think he's fit for purpose, and I think he needs to leave the football club, and I know a lot of people share that opinion. A lot of people have an opinion that is different and seem to, like Bill Kenwright and don't believe he's the problem. But whatever you feel about Bill Kenwright, whatever you feel about, how he's ran the club or his involvement with the football club, I think we can all agree on one thing, and that is spray painting and defacing the stadium, as we saw last night with the the spray paint and the graffiti, which stated about, wanting Vítor Pereira out, which is a bit mad because Vítor Pereira isn't even in, or whether it be, somebody spray painting a picture of Bill Kenwright on the side of Goodison today. Spray painting the stadium isn't the answer. It's just not acceptable for me, and I know some people will say, but he's not done anything for the club or this, that and the other, but that's not the point. There's no need to go and deface our own stadium. That's our home. This is our football club. It's not Bill Kenwright's football club. It's not Farhad Mashiri's football club. It's our football club. And do you think Bill Kenwright will be down there tomorrow morning with a scrubber scrubbing that paint off? No, he won't. He'll employ somebody that'll have to go and stand there in the fucking freezing cold trying to get that off tomorrow morning. And ultimately, defacing the stadium isn't really a sensible thing to do, in my opinion. Protest looked absolutely brilliant, and it looked like it was done really professionally. The banners looked fantastic that were put out there. There was media coverage there, which is fantastic, of course. The singing seemed in conjunction as well. It seemed very safe. Again, absolutely spot on, and a massive well done to everybody that organised that, and a massive well done to everybody that could turn up and get involved in demanding better for our football club. But there's no need to spray paint the stadium. There's no need to spray paint and graffiti Goodison Park at the end of the day. But as I said, it is another managerial update video. This time, 24 hours ago, we were talking about the potential of Niko Kovac becoming new Everton manager. We also talked about an article yesterday which stated that Vítor Pereira was set to pull away, or Everton was set to pull away from Vítor Pereira after stating that a knee-jerk appointment would not be made. Literally 2 minutes after, ending last night's stream, there was another report from David Maddock again, stating that Vítor Pereira had become the front runner once again. Literally early on in the day, it was stated that he was going to be, Everton were going to pull away from that because Farhad Moshiri was advised to not make a knee-jerk appointment. And within 2 minutes of me finishing the live stream, there was a report saying that actually Vítor Pereira is still, the leading candidate, and Farhad Moshiri has basically gone over the board and not really taken their advice. Now, obviously, that led to, as I said, the graffiti at Goodison Park, which I absolutely don't condone. I think it said something like Pereira out, Lampard in, which is, it's a bit mad, really, because Vítor Pereira was never in, but I understand the premise behind saying Pereira out, but, it's not his fault, is it, ultimately? And we're at this point now where I think a lot of Evertonians are stuck between, whether it's going to be Frank Lampard or Vítor Pereira, and I think they're the two names that are really leading the race at the moment. And I wouldn't be surprised if we sit here tomorrow and somebody else's name's been thrown in the hat, or we're sitting here on Friday and somebody else's name's been thrown in the hat, because that's Everton Football Club for you. That's how they work. Somebody else will probably come up tomorrow, and then, as I said, it'll be somebody else on Friday. But at the moment, it very much seems like it's Vítor Pereira and Frank Lampard, so it's leading Evertonians into sort of having a decision to make between them two, and I feel the majority of Evertonians are siding with Frank Lampard, although he mightn't have necessarily been first choice before we got to this point. And then, due to those that graffiti and a lot of the social media outbreak, there was a report earlier this morning which stated that Vítor Pereira has almost been put off by the sort of response from Evertonians and is thinking about walking away from the Everton, appointment, or walking away from his decision to apply for the Everton job. And then half an hour later, out of absolutely nowhere, I go onto my phone, I look at my notifications, and I see Sky Sports News, Vítor Pereira joins us to talk about the situation with Everton. And I'm reading it thinking, surely not. I know we're a circus. I know that, it's a soap opera, and every single day there's something else that you couldn't have even thought about waking up would happen. But surely a managerial candidate who's being considered by the club for a job isn't going to go on to Sky Sports and answer all sorts of questions about why he either wants the job or doesn't want the job. But look what happened. That's exactly what he did. And let's have a little look at the interview now. So, as I said, he joined the reporter on Sky Sports, the presenter on Sky Sports. The first thing he said was, "It is a pleasure to be here." He said, "A few years ago when I finished work in Porto, I was introduced to Mr. Bill Kenwright, and since then we have had a good relationship. The board asked me to come for a meeting. I've had more than one interview with different people." He said, "A few years ago, I remember the time of Jagielka, Baines, Coleman and Howard. I remember Goodison Park as a fortress." Now remember that. Jagielka, Baines, Coleman, Howard. I remember Goodison Park as a fortress, because it's really interesting a little bit later on into the interview as to why I think we should keep that in our memory just for a second. He says, "I understand the passion of the supporters. It is my challenge to approach the spirit of the club to get this fire on the pitch." He said, "I think the first decision from the manager in the club," he's not even the manager. At this point, he's got nothing to do with Everton other than applying for the job. "I think the first decision from the manager in the club is to bring a game in the organisation, the way to press and the intensive game I saw a few years ago. To me, to watch at Goodison, to show other teams Goodison is a fortress and is difficult to play." He said about the fans, he said, "I think they're enthusiastic. This is a confidence. We need to give them confidence again to these players and this team." It sounds like an interview with a manager who's just been employed by the club, doesn't it? If he does end up being employed, which at this point would be an absolute monumental decision by Farhad Moshiri if he still ends up going ahead with this, then he won't need to sit in front of a camera and do a first interview. He won't need to do a first press conference, because he's fucking said everything here, and he hasn't even been employed. We need to give confidence again to these players and the team. We need to approach the fantastic supporters to the team again. This is what I propose. The interviews were very positive. They have other candidates, and this is the time for decisions. I understand this is the time for decisions. They have told me to wait for the decision and to be calm. They are grateful for the interviews, and that was all. And he was asked about the critics and the Everton fans that are sort of not happy with the situation. He said, "In my opinion, some of the critics are not for me because they do not know me very well. They do not know my work or me personally. I work in a lot of different countries at different levels. We've got several titles. I understand the feeling of the supporters." He was then asked about the graffiti at Goodison Park last night, which just made me want to put my phone down, leave the room, and fall off the face of the earth. I've never felt so awkward in all my life. He said, of course, this is the first time in my career that I see these kind of things. Never in my career have I seen these comments. My CV speaks for itself. I think these critics are not directly to me. It's something to do with environment. Proper Jose Mourinho vibes, that, isn't it? My CV speaks for myself. We've won trophies in different leagues. Now, Vítor Pereira might be the soundest fella in the world, and he might tactically be a good manager, but do we really need to bring in a manager and employ a manager who, when challenged by fans, which he ultimately will be, even if he does get the job, he will be challenged by fans at some point over the next couple of months when we lose a game or with a bad decision, or, you know, the media will challenge him if things aren't going too well and we're close to the relegation zone. Do we really need a manager that is going to get challenged and say, my CV speaks for itself? I don't know. He said, the passion is the power of the club. The spirit of the supporters can change the game. The passion in football can be on a positive side or a negative side. What a manager should do is bring the positive side. He said, in my career, you look at the top managers in the world. We have titles in different countries. Teaching young players, I started my career 8 years in Porto. In Munich, it was very difficult. It was a very difficult money situation. They were relegated because of the money. Firmly putting out there that 1860 Munich's relegation was nothing to do with me. It was because of the money. Munich were relegated because the club didn't have the money to pay the players. You must look at the titles I've won. You must look at the positives. All of my career, I work under pressure. The pressure is to be the best level. He's asked if he still wanted the Everton job, because obviously there was a report earlier in the day that he didn't. He said, yes, of course, I do have doubt. I'm not waiting. I did my work as a professional, and now the decision is the club's decision. I cannot speak as the manager because I'm not the manager. I can speak about this when I am the manager. That was talking about, transfers. He was asked about transfers and what players he'd like to bring in. He then was asked about bringing a message to Evertonians. He said, I build my career with passion, with organisation, with confidence. This is what I can offer the club. Every time I give 100% of me, football for me is 24/7. This is my life. This is what I can offer. He said, I will move on with my life. I will move forward with my life. If they want me, they must call me. Thank you very much. He then said, of course, I'm sure that either now or the future I'll be in the Premier League, because he was asked about if this appointment doesn't go to his plan, then will he still want to move to the Premier League? He said yes. And then here's the really, really interesting one. He was asked again basically about, the spirit of Everton and what Everton means and the embodiment, and does he understand the club? Listen to this. Let's talk about some players I keep in mind. Jagielka, Baines, Howard, Coleman. Big players with fantastic careers at the club. I remember a time Goodison was a fortress for teams. I've had many conversations with many people at the club. So, effectively, what he's done there is he has said the same thing twice about 10 minutes apart, which you may think isn't a big deal. You may be looking at it and going, and what difference does that make? But to me, if that isn't an indication that either somebody has been in his ear or he's had some form of note written down, and that might be notes he's made himself about the club. But when you talk about the glory days of Everton, firstly, I don't go back to the days of Jagielka, Baines, Coleman and Tim Howard, although they were much better days than what we're experiencing now, and they were the best days in recent years. I would think he would talk about Neville Southall or Peter Reid or Andy Gray, not necessarily a team that didn't win anything. But I understand that, when he was linked with Everton first in 2013, those players were in and around the football club. I get that. But again, he's pretty much said the exact same sentence. These four players, and I remember Goodison as a fortress, which he literally said 15 minutes before, repeating himself, almost as if there's a note in front of him. Mention these players. If you'd asked this, mention this. This, to me, screams of desperation, and it screams of a certain somebody, be it the owner or be it Kia Jarabshian or Jarabashian, however you pronounce his name, saying to him, go in front of a camera or go in front of a phone Sky Sports up and tell them why you want the job. Go and try and convince Evertonians why you're the right man for the job. Now, whoever is advised Vítor Pereira to make that call and to have that interview, very clearly has thought, this will be great, this will be brilliant, Evertonians will get behind it, they'll hear it, they'll see it, they'll think, yes, he's great, he's the right man for the job, he's this, that and the other. But in reality, it's had the adverse effect. I think most Evertonians have just sort of sat back and gone, what the fuck is going on? Why is a potential candidate to become the next Everton manager going on national television and talking about what he wants to do with Everton before he's even got the job? Why is he doing that? Why is he going out and talking about the interview process and who he's spoken to and who he's got a relationship with and the ex-players of the club? It reeks of desperation. It reeks of somebody at the football club who clearly wants Vítor Pereira at the club more than other people do and more than the fans do, saying to him, go out and try and sell yourself. Go and try and, put it out there to the fans as to why you should be the manager of Everton. As I said, even coming out and saying little things like we, as if you've already got the job. Has he already got the job? As I said, if he has, he doesn't need to do a fucking initial interview, does he? Because it's there, it's on Sky Sports. If he hasn't got the job, then is this going to be a red flag for Everton? And Everton going to sit back and go, why is he ran to Sky Sports to have these conversations? Because I'm sure if Vítor Pereira had called Everton and said, listen, I've been asked by Sky to go on and have a little conversation about what's going on in the situation, can I? I'm sure Everton would go, no, I'd rather you not, because we haven't made the decision and you're still in the frame. So, say no. But he hasn't. He's gone there. And as I said, some of the things he's saying sounded very, very soundbitey. And he didn't really say them with a lot of conviction in his voice and his tone. It was almost like he'd been told to say them. Or he'd been told, go out there and try and make the fans believe that you're the right man for the job. And as I said, a couple of things in there that really stuck out for me as red flags. The repeating of the word, you mightn't think, to some people that mightn't be too serious, but for me, it's very much it almost seems like it's, I'm going to say this because I know that this could get Evertonians on board. And then when he's being asked a similar question, instead of changing it and talking about another team or another structure, he's just said the same thing. The whole, my CV speaks for itself. With all due respect, yes, he won a trophy in Porto, fantastic. Yes, he won a trophy in Greece, brilliant. His CV doesn't, in any way, shape or form, state that he has got experience in getting teams out of the situation that Everton are in at the moment. Relegation battles, needing to motivate players and needing to, ultimately drag players through a difficult time. Coming out and saying things along the lines of, again, talking about we. Well, it's not a we at the moment. You're simply a candidate, as Frank Lampard is, as Wayne Rooney is. Is Frank Lampard going to be on fucking Mock the Week tonight, doing a little interview talking about Everton? What sort of a fucking shambles is this? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Why has all of our fucking business got to be published out there to the media? Why has all of our business got to be straight out there? We can't even have a fucking internal interview process without somebody in the media getting hold of it. As I said, my CV is speaks for itself. If it was Sam Allardyce saying that, I'd say fair enough. He's got a history of keeping teams in the Premier League in this situation. Another thing that really sort of made me, think was the 1860 Bayern, the 1860 Munich situation. No responsibility taken, and you could almost tell in the tone of his voice, it was like he had, again, a smile on his face, and obviously it's difficult to say that because there was no video, but it was straight like, no, it wasn't my fault, that was money. The only reason they got relegated was for money. When ultimately there might have been mitigating circumstances. The squad might have been thinner than Everton's, the confidence might have been on the floor. But Vítor Pereira lost 11 out of 20 games in charge of 1860 Munich. Yes, they had money struggles, and yes, I think they ended up going down the season after because of money as well, and because they couldn't fund it. But that season, he was the manager when they went down. He has to take responsibility for that. What's he going to do if he comes into Everton and get relegated? Is he going to leave and go on Sky and say, yeah, they had no money, couldn't buy anyone in January, they had no money, players got injured? It's excuses, and I don't like hearing excuses. And overall, as I said, it's just another example of the absolute disastrous situation that we're in as a football club at the moment. Why are managerial candidates coming out on national news, national television, and talking about, about the potential of them becoming the Everton manager? when they're merely just as I said, they're merely just a candidate at the moment, coming out and talking about relationships with people at the club, who he's spoken to, who he hasn't spoken to. I think he also made the point of saying, I haven't got an agent. I'm represented by a lawyer, not an agent. Now, if you didn't feel the need to sort of come out and address that, why would you? If somebody like Kia Joorabchian wasn't involved in this, then why would you feel the need to say, I haven't got an agent? Kia Joorabchian isn't an agent. He's not an agent anymore. He's a middleman who is literally only there to line his own pockets. He doesn't give a fuck about Everton or how successful Everton are or whether the people that he brings to Everton do a good job or not. He gives a fuck about how much money he's going to make from certain people. And I'll tell you something as well. If Dominic Calvert-Lewin is contemplating his future in the summer for whatever reason, Kia Joorabchian will be all fucking over trying to get him to Arsenal. Mark my fucking words. This fella doesn't give a fuck about Everton Football Club. All as he cares about is his own pocket. So he shouldn't be anywhere near Everton. But we've had these conversations before. Managerial is an idiot and can't say no to him and can't get him out of his ear. But I can't help but feel like Vítor Pereira's been put up to this, almost as if to say by the club or somebody at the club or somebody making decisions on behalf of the club, go out there and try and convince the fans that you're the right man to take this club forward, that you're the right man for the job. And as I said, it's backfired, because all as it's done is make fans go, what the fuck's going on? Why has he done that? It's embarrassing. You know, he's asked about the graffiti on the stadium. He's not even the manager yet. Fair enough, if he was the manager and these questions are being asked, that's fine. The decision's being made. You know, we accept it, we move on. He's not even the manager. I don't get it. I really don't understand it. I just don't. If you are enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. 157 people watching. If you could get the likes up, that'd be an absolute massive amount to me. Deborah Hodgson has become a member of the channel. Thank you very much, Deborah. Really do appreciate it. And Anthony says, can read between the lines. He's probably already signed the contract. Well, look, there's a couple of ways you can look at this, isn't it? I've seen a couple of different scenarios of people talking about with this interview, and one of them was that he's already signed for the club, and the club have decided to allow him to go on national television to try and rally, get this rally cry of the fans before they announce him. I don't necessarily believe that one, because I think the club would have just announced them and then had him do this type of interview with Everton and then, put it out there. There's another one, which is that the club, or I say the club, Farhad Mashiri and, Alisher Usmanov and, Kia Joorabchian want to bring him to Everton, but we're concerned about the fans and the way in which the fans would, sort of feel about it. And they, well, not Kia Joorabchian, because he's only asked about money, but, the others would worried about the way the fans would react to it. So they've asked them, or they've sort of said, go out on Sky and do this interview and try and make yourself, known. There's the option that the club have said he's not going to get it, and therefore he's thought, well, I'm going to call Sky then and make sure that other teams in and around the, the country know what I bring and what I can bring, and that I want to work in the Premier League and put himself out there a little bit. Or there's the case that Everton just simply didn't know anything about this, and he's just decided off of his own back to go on Sky Sports and do this interview. There's plenty of different ways in which this could have unfolded. I personally think the most realistic, and again, this isn't based off of any fact, but personally, I think the most realistic of those scenarios is that somebody, whether it be Kia Joorabchian or Farhad Mashiri or whoever, somebody has spoken to Mr. Pereira and said, listen, go and do this interview, go and say all of the right things, mention these players, Howard, Jagielka, Baines, mention Goodison being a fortress, mention this, mention that, and then hopefully the Evertonians will get behind it, and then we'll make the decision. When in reality, most Evertonians that I've seen certainly talking about it have gone, well, what's going on here then? What's this all about? Which is, I dare say, not the outcome that the club expected, or certainly that, Kia expected, which is, or Vítor, expected. I don't think he would have expected, for the fans to act so, so confused by it, I suppose. Let's have a little look at the latest rumours surrounding the the Vítor Pereira stuff then, not just his interview, which is, again, baffling. I'm sure everybody is as baffled and confused as me with it, to be honest with you. I don't really know what's going on. I really, really don't. But the latest, obviously, regarding the situation from Sami Mokbel of the Daily Mail, who's been very, very, very frequent and consistent in this story, and the story of Vítor Pereira and his potential, involvement in the Everton manager's role. He said literally less than an hour ago, Vítor Pereira's interview on Sky Sports today has apparently took Everton by surprise. That would indicate that nobody at the club had the clue. But then again, it could take Everton by surprise, but not Farhad Moshiri, because, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't communicate with his fellow board members, to be honest with you. On a side note, by the way, Ellis Sims has joined Hearts on loan for until the end of the season, so best of luck to Ellis. I think it's a good opportunity for him to get some game time. He was probably 4th choice, maybe even 5th choice, striker. So it's good for him to go out there and get some game time, and I'm sure the club will reassess him in the summer. As I said before the interview on Sky, really, really interestingly, before the interview on Sky with Vítor Pereira, there was actually a report from Alan Myers saying still no decision made on a manager appointment, anything can happen. But before that, Sami Mokbel, who, as I said, has just reported about Everton, people at Everton being confused about the interview, and also has been very close to this story over the last couple of days. He reported that Vítor Pereira has spoken with the Daily Mail and has said that he is sad at the protest from supporters against his appointment. Pereira also made it clear he is not represented by an agent, but by a lawyer, and applied for the job through Bill Kenwright. He also said Frank Lampard has strong support from members of the Everton board. CEO Denise Barrett-Baxendale is understood to be pushing at boardroom levels. Lampard is now emerging as the lead candidate. So, again, you've got Sami Mokbel coming out and saying that Pereira was upset at fan protests. You had reports earlier on in the day, I think it was Miguel Delaney, who we'll talk about in a second, saying that Pereira is almost being put off by the protests. But then you've got the man himself going on to Sky Sports saying basically, well, it's not nice, but I get that the frustration isn't aimed towards me, this, that and the other. What's going on? Are these journalists making things up? Are they getting the wrong information? Is Vítor Pereira changing his mind? Or is he come out and said, yeah, I'm not happy with them protests, I don't like it, and then had a call from somebody at Everton saying, think of the money that we'll give you, or please come in, go out and say that you get that it's not towards you. I don't get it. None of it makes sense. Absolutely none of it makes sense. And again, little parts of the interview saying we. Yes, he did come out a couple of times and say, the decision hasn't been made, and I've been told to, I've been told to wait and stuff like that. But then when you're coming out and using words, phrases like we, and this is what I'll do, it either reeks of desperation or reeks of something that we don't know. John says, when were you on with Ped? And he said if he got the same points with Everton as he did with 1860 Munich, Everton would stay up. You didn't say anything. Well, he would, because 11 wins would keep us up at the moment. But my point is that he needed to win a sufficient amount of games that season, and he didn't, and they went down. And he since has blamed the money situation, which is baffling. But yeah, as I said, that was from Sami Mokbel. Christian Falk, who, again, slightly off topic, is a very reliable sort of Bayern Munich specific journalist. He actually come out earlier on in the day and said that Everton are interested in Bayern Munich striker Thomas Müller, which is interesting. I don't know whether they're interested in bringing him in as a manager or a player, but that's interesting. As I said, Miguel Delaney said that, firstly, he said Tim Cahill is in line for a football role at Everton, whatever that means. He then said Everton is set for further talks with Frank Lampard, as he is now emerging as a leading candidate for the job. Previous to that, I believe he said Sami Mokbel. It was actually not Miguel Delaney. Sami Mokbel originally about 1:30. So it was about 4:00 that Vítor Pereira went on to onto Sky Sports, and at 1:15, Sami Mokbel said Vítor Pereira considers withdrawing from the running for Everton job following fan protests could open the door for Frank Lampard to become the front runner. Earlier on in the day, David Ornstein said the final decision is yet to be made by Farhad Moshiri on who the next Everton manager will be. Frank Lampard is still in the frame to become the next manager. Paul Joyce said that Vítor Pereira has emerged as Farhad Moshiri's preferred choice to become the next Everton manager. Pereira impressed during an interview with Moshiri and is now the leading candidate to replace Benitez. Again, that was earlier on in the day. Sami Mokbel earlier on in the day saying Vítor Pereira is in London for further talks over Everton job, emerging as lead candidate. And then obviously late last night there was the report from Fabrizio Romano to say that Pereira was in England together with his staff members. He hopes to join Everton but waiting for a decision from the club. He would accept a 6-month deal with an option for one more season. David Maddock of the Mirror saying that Everton are ready to appoint Vítor Pereira on an interim basis until the end of the season with the option for another season should he keep Everton in the Premier League. As I said, David Maddock of the Mirror originally last night saying that Vítor Pereira now is Moshiri's preferred choice after second interview, likely appointed before the end of the week. Lampard's second interview but ruled out. Rooney thought too experienced. Board overruled despite plea not to knee-jerk. So, other than the reports from Sami Mokbel to state that Vítor Pereira is considering withdrawing from the running for Everton manager because of the protest, which obviously were then, pretty much dismissed by Vítor Pereira himself coming out and saying he wants the job on Sky. We haven't really heard much. Sami Mokbel said that if Pereira withdraws, that could leave the door open for Frank Lampard. And as I said, Miguel Delaney said that Frank Lampard is still in the running. A lot of sources, the likes of, Alan Myers and other people close to the football club are saying that no decision is being made. Fabrizio Romano last night said no decision is being made. But it's still, for me, although Lampard may still very much be in the running, and maybe these protests and maybe the fallout from the fan base will keep Frank Lampard in the running, it seems to me like the club are leaning towards one person, and that is seemingly Vítor Pereira, or certainly the owner is leaning towards one person. Again, as I said, articles stating there that people like Denise Barrett-Baxendale at the club are interested in bringing in Frank Lampard. But when you look at the people on the board that are interested in bringing in Vítor Pereira, he's spoken today on Sky about a relationship with Bill Kenwright. So is Bill in that sort of camp? We know that the owner is more than likely in that camp as well with Kia Jordan. Otherwise, if he wasn't, then Pereira wouldn't even be on the list because the owner makes the decision at the end of the day. So I still think Pereira is the leading candidate. However, the interview for me on Sky Sports today would tell me that if Everton did employ him, the club would be in even more of a shambles than what it already is. Because again, I just don't think he helped his cause whatsoever. I really, really don't, and it just shows the actual extent of the mess that this situation is in at the moment. And it's really, really interesting. Actually, I'm gonna put a poll in the comments about this because it's really interesting. I know Toffee TV. I was on Toffee TV today, and I know they put a poll up on their Twitter about Lampard or Pereira, and I think over 7,000 votes were put in, and 95% wanted Lampard over Pereira. So I've just put a poll in the live comments. Have a little go at that while we're live. Lampard or Pereira, which one? Who do you prefer? But as I said, for whatever reason, Lampard doesn't seem to be the greatest. So he doesn't seem to be in the running as much as Vítor Pereira. Maybe that's because of the type of contract that he wants. Maybe Lampard wants more, cast iron guarantees than what Pereira wants. Pereira's clearly willing to accept the contract of 6 months and then, decide in the summer what happens. Lampard, I think, is more likely going to want, a little bit more of a guarantee about the future, which is fair enough. Personally, I would rather have had Lampard. And I would rather have Lampard. And I think, some of the protests at the club at the moment, certainly surrounding the board, and the frustration and worry by fans about the board, may sway that decision. Who knows? Ultimately, Farhad Moshiri very clearly is aware of these things that are going on because he's referenced them Vítor Pereira is very clear of these things that are going on, because he was asked the question and he didn't say, oh, I didn't know there was graffiti on. He directly spoke about it, so he's obviously being shown a picture, he's obviously being told about it. But, you know, as I said, just really, really strange, isn't it? Really, really strange. The likes of Nico Kovac, who we spoke about yesterday, Rudy Garcia, they seem to have rightly quietened down now. And as I said, at this current moment, as of, you know, Wednesday the 26th of January, it seems like it's between Pereira and Frank Lampard, but that could change. You know, 2-3 days ago, Vítor Pereira's name hadn't even been brought up, and Frank Lampard was very much somebody that a lot of Evertonians said, I'm not that interested in. It seems now that a lot of Evertonians want Frank Lampard, because the other option we're being faced with is somebody that has got no experience and has just went to Sky Sports to do an interview about why he wants the Everton job, which isn't the greatest look. But, as I said, there may well still be another name that props up. We may well be sitting here tomorrow talking about somebody else. We may well be sitting here on Friday talking about another name, because it just seems like every day things are changing. As I said, you know, we sat here yesterday and it all seemed like, you know, there was certain people under consideration, but no decision is being made. Now we've had one of the candidates going on Sky Sports. We've had, you know, 4 different reports throughout the day saying Pereira wants the job. No, he doesn't want the job. Actually, he does want the job. Maybe he doesn't want the job. You know, the club are confused by his interview with Sky. Well, if the club haven't given the go ahead to that interview with Sky and they're not happy with it, then surely that is a big sort of component in the decision that they're going to make. But maybe other people at the club did know about the Sky interview. Maybe some people at the club are confused by it. Maybe other people at the club told Vítor Pereira to go on Sky, and that's another big problem, is the people at the top, the board members, the owner, the chairman, the CEO, all seem to be working towards different things, all seem to be working towards different goals, wanting different things for the football club. And how are we ever going to turn this football club into a success if the people at the top are like petulant children running around throwing their toys out the pram, haven't got a clue how to run a football club, you know, is one thing, but they haven't even got a clue how to agree with each other. They can't agree with each other on simple decisions. Some people at the club didn't know this was going on, and I would be willing to bet a considerable amount of money that other people at the club or other people around the club, i.e. Kajir Abshan, knew it was going on. Because it seemed so apt, it seemed so scripted, it seemed so, well, hang on, there was graffiti on the stadium yesterday, fans clearly aren't very happy with this appointment. Next minute, the manager's on, well, the candidate's on Sky Sports talking about what he would bring and why he'd be a good fit for Everton. When has that ever happened? Seriously? Did Carlo Ancelotti tweet, I'd be great for Everton before he joined? Has any other manager of any other club ever gone to Sky Sports or wherever else and done this? Why does this shit only happen to Everton? I don't get it. I really, really don't get it. It baffles me. It baffles me. But that's the latest anyway. I apologise that there was a lot of stuff there. I've had a busy day today, and unfortunately, as Semi says, this is the soap opera that is Everton Football Club. We are a fucking soap opera. I'm fully convinced now. I'm fully convinced that we all live in the Truman Show, and that we're all just being absolutely done over by a bunch of actors that are trying to get as much out of us as they possibly can. There's not a chance this is real life. Not a chance. Not a chance this is real life. We can't even just have a day of, yeah, we've been linked with this manager, been linked with that manager, club haven't made a decision yet. It's everything's a fucking drama. Everything is 100 mile an hour. This is the situation. No, actually it's this. No, actually it's that. No, actually it's this. Different media sources being fed different information. Different members of the Everton board and the Everton hierarchy wanting different things to each other. This football club will never sort out its problems while that's the case. While you've got people pulling in different directions, you're pulling the club apart. That's what we are. If you imagine Everton as one of them stringy people, you know, one of them elastic, bloody, you know, super people that you used to be able to get the toys, and the various different members of the board are pulling in different directions. And how are we ever meant to come together and go towards one goal if the people at the top who run the football club, who make the decisions, can't even agree? You know, I bet you these fucking people couldn't agree on what sort of fucking takeaway to have on a Friday night. They'd all have a different option. And these are running our football club. It's baffling. It's absolutely baffling. If you are enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. The poll is up there, as I said. 83 people vote. 83 votes currently. Lampard with an overwhelming 86%. So don't forget to get your votes in if you're watching live. Who do you want in? If it was between them two, which, as I said, it seems to be at the moment, but it mightn't be tomorrow. Who would you want in out of those? So Stretch Armstrong says, Semi, that's absolutely right, mate. It is Stretch Armstrong. Get your votes in on the poll. As I said, if you're enjoying, if you could hit that like button, it would mean a great deal to me. 185 people watching. If you could get the likes up, that'd be brilliant. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. That'd be absolutely fantastic. Let's get in to some of the comments then. Izzy says, 1860 Munich is a shambles of a club, to be fair. I lived in Austria at the time and followed the German Bundesliga and German sports news closely 6-7 years ago, and they were always destined to go down. Yeah, and that's fair, but in 5 or 10 years, we might be looking and going, Everton were a shambles, to be fair. They were destined to go down as well. You know, ultimately, it's the Vítor Pereira appointment is a monumental risk that I honestly don't think this club can afford to take. Frank Lampard appointment is a risk, but not as much of a risk. And that's where we're at. That's where we're at with the managerial stuff. It's not even a case of who's going to come in and we can be absolutely confident they'll keep us up and we'll do well under them. It's not even a case of that at this point. It's a case of who's the least risk. Frank Lampard's a risk, of course he's a risk. He's never been in this situation before. He's never managed these players. Yes, he's got a good track record of bringing through youth and giving young players a chance, but he's never been in this situation before. So, of course, Frank Lampard is a massive risk as well, but he's less of a risk than Vítor Pereira, and he's less of a risk than Roberto Martinez. That's how this managerial decision is going to be made, is who is the least risk. Chris Burns says, nice talking to you today. Calm is right, Chris. Thank you very much. Lovely to talk to you as well, my mate. Yeah, what can you do? Gareth says, forget James Brown, Cam on Toffee TV all day and then this live show now. The hardest working man in showbiz. Actually, you're probably too young to get the hardest working man in showbiz reference. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And Sombiero says, yes, Gareth, Cam is killing it. Got to get on the late night streams. We love the late night streams here. Now everyone's onto them. They love them. Again, 170 people watching. Thank you all very much. We're just trying to rejoice and have a little bit of an... you know, as I said, almost like a therapy session is about Everton, because, you know, we've had a few streams. Jay Dunn says, I'm petrified for my club camp. Same here, mate. Absolutely same here. I'm scared. I really, really am. We've had a few streams recently where it's been very much, we've been linked with this manager and why this manager wouldn't be a good fit and what about this name, and, you know, we had the Benitez stuff and we lost again last weekend, and it's been very much typical Everton disaster, you know, and then we get to today. It was just when I seen the notification. And of you know, Sky Sports saying Vítor Pereira joined us live to talk about Everton, and I looked around, stupid, because I was in a filming studio with many cameras, but I almost looked in the top corners as if to say, am I being filmed? Am I being taken for a knobhead here? Am I going to walk into my living room one day and Bill Kenwright, Kia Jarabshi and Farhad Mashiri are going to be there saying, fucking hell, we had you off there. You know, we were only messing, we were only doing it to piss you off. Am I being why is an Everton managerial candidate going onto Sky Sports to talk about fucking the Everton manager's job? Why? It's almost like Mashiri's gone, well, I won't talk to, you know, I won't talk to Jim White anymore because fans want me to directly communicate with them. So what I'll do instead is I'll get the people that I want to employ to go out and talk to Sky or talk to TalkSport. I bet you'll be on TalkSport tomorrow as well. You know, what's Lampard going to do? Join Jordan and Jim White? Is that what Everton are doing now? Are they saying to the candidates, do me a favour, go on, you know, a national television or a national radio station and go and tell us why you should be the Everton manager? Isn't that the fucking point of an interview? Isn't that why you bring them in and sit down with them and talk to them? Isn't that a point of confidentiality, privacy? We shouldn't be privy to this. We shouldn't be privy to anything that Vítor Pereira has spoken about today. That should have been all in private with the club in an interview. The club should be able to determine whether or not what he said and what he brings and his experience and his CV that speaks for itself is right for Everton. Why are we being told it? It's almost like the responsibility's being put onto us. Well, what you know, what do you think of what he's got to say? Well, it's our club. Of course we've got a say. And the club and the fans have let it be known since it was first bloody rumoured that we were interested in Pereira, that he wasn't the right man for the job and it was a monumental risk. We don't need him to go onto Sky Sports and make a further embarrassment of the fucking job, of the club, by going on and effectively begging for it. And saying, oh, I won't wait around. If they want me, they'll call me. Well, why didn't you just fucking wait then, instead of going on Sky? I don't get it. I just don't get it. Oh, Anthony says you said you were getting rid. Yeah, I forgot to get rid of the new. Listen, I've literally been in. I've spent 4 hours in work this morning. I've been in Toffee TV for about 8 hours, and I've just come in and had my tea. I forgot to get rid of the sign. It is what it is. Yeah, I just don't get it. As I said, I seen that today, and I almost just sort of thought, what's going on? Is this even real life anymore? School of Sciences isn't part of the agreement to do an interview, an NDA, until they're announced as the Everton manager. I don't know, mate, but I would assume that if Everton Football Club was ran like a proper business, and ran as it should be, and ran as a business that is striving for success, then this would end Vítor Pereira's chances of becoming the next Everton manager. Completely. So we'll wait and see. Tommy says, no one on that board has any pride in themselves, says it, otherwise they would have resigned. The protest was shit, says Big Guy. It looked good. Were you there? Don says, I think it's a done deal and he's being given the job, otherwise it's a madness to talk about the job. But if he's being given the job and it's a done deal, then why not just announce it and have him do that interview in Everton gear with EvertonFC.com? Because at least then we could say, well, he's the manager now, get behind him. You know, a couple of things that he's saying are good and are right. Get behind him now, but he is just the candidate at the moment. Lara says, if the board resigns, what happens then? We'll have to get a new board, won't we? Legally, you've got to have board members, you've got to have directors of the football club, but the board won't resign because they don't listen. Because, you know, I've said this for a while, my biggest issue with the board isn't even their incapability to do the job that they're being asked to do. My biggest issue with the board isn't even their ineptitude and the fact that they're not fit for purpose. That's not my biggest issue with the board. Do you know what my biggest issue with the board is? My biggest issue with the board is that they are inept. They don't understand what they're doing. They have dragged this club down for years and years, but they think they're doing a good job. That is the biggest problem. There's no recognition. There's no accountability. There's no responsibility to say, yeah, we're doing a fucking shocking job here. We need to employ somebody else, or we need to get this person in or that person in, or we need to change the way we do things. They genuinely think they're doing a great job. Bill Kenwright thinks he's doing a fucking wonderful job with Everton. He thinks everything is rosy glory, everything's brilliant. And you know what, again, another one of the worst things is Farhad Moshiri agrees with them. Farhad Moshiri, in his statement, clearly said, oh, Bill's boss, Denise's boss, everything's going well. It's fucking not. We're in a relegation battle in January. There's protests, there's demonstrations. You've got managerial candidates coming out on Sky Sports talking about the job. Everything isn't going well. And that's my biggest worry about this football club, is this board think they're doing a good job. They genuinely think. They'll be sitting there tonight thinking, why is there protests against us? What have we done? You've dragged this fucking football club through the mud for the last 5 or 6 years to the situation where we're now sitting here thinking, we've not got a manager, we're in a relegation battle, and we need to sign 2 players before Monday when the transfer window shuts. Otherwise, we are gone. We're going down. And this is what I said on Toffee TV today. Again, for me, listen, I agree with protests. I agree with standing up for what's best for the football club and standing up for the future of our football club. Some people will agree, some people won't agree. I think today was a good example of it. I think it looked good. I think it looked professional, the protest. It looked sensible, albeit there might have been 1 or 2 situations that maybe were a little bit out of hand, but that's always going to happen. For the most part, it looked like it was a relatively sensible process, which is what you want to see. And I agree with all of that, and I agree with fans standing up against the board, and I do it on this channel all the time, and I agree with fans, demanding better. And as I said on Twitter earlier, we demand better. It's about time our club did too. I agree with all of that. But I think one thing that's really important now, and I want to convey it before we leave, is that this is our football club, right? This is our club. It's not the board's club. It's not Farhad Moshiri's club. It's not Bill Kenwright's club. It's not Dominic Calvert-Lewin's club. It's not whoever the next manager is. It's not their club. It's not Richarlison's club. It's not Jordan Pickford's club. It's not Denise Barrett-Baxendale's club. This is our club. And if we go down, a lot of those players will get off. The manager will come and go over the years. The board will come and go, although it seems at the moment they won't, but they will. They'll come and go. The owner will come and go. Kia Jirabishan, hopefully, will go. Don't bother coming. Just go. All of those people that I've just mentioned, and not just those specific players I've just mentioned, but, everybody around the club that's employed by the club will come and go over the years. Do you know the one people that won't come and go is us fans? We're the one constant. We'll be here from birth to death. And then when we pass, our children, grandchildren, friends, family will be supporting this football club. We will always be here. This is our fucking football club. It's not their football club. It's not the boards. It's not the players. It's not the manager. This is our fucking football club. And I am getting seriously worried now that this football club will be relegated this season because we've still not got a manager. We still are in desperate need of winning games of football. The confidence is low, and we're in desperate need of a centre-back and a centre midfielder before the end of the window, which closes on Monday, by the way. So, as I said, I agree with the protests, and I agree with people going out and standing up against the board and standing up against the club. I agree with all of that, and I think it's really well done. I agree with standing up for what's best for the football club. But what I would say, for me now, what's the most important thing at the moment is winning games of football. Getting the board out and getting a new board and getting rid of Bill Kenwright and Farhad Moshiri selling the club. Because Moshiri's done with Evertonians now. He won't come back from this. He simply won't. Whether you like it or not, he won't come back. He won't come back from this. Evertonians will never trust him again. I just don't see him building that rapport, building that relationship back with Evertonians, even with the stadium and the stadium situation. What's most important now is Everton winning games of football. Ultimately, that's more important than anything. We're in the middle of the end of January. We're in a relegation battle. We've got a severely weak squad. We've got no manager, no director of football, no head of recruitment, no head of whatever. We've ultimately, the most important thing is for us to start winning. And whoever the manager is that comes in, we've got to get behind it. And whoever the players are on that pitch, whether we like them or not, whether we think that they're great or not, we've got to get behind them. Because you know what? If we go down, the manager will probably fuck off. And a lot of the players will fuck off. But you know who won't fuck off? It's us. So when we're at Goodison Park next week against Brentford, and when we're there the week after against Leeds, and for every single time we're at Goodison Park, or we're going to watch Everton away from home, we need to make it a bear pit. Because these players have proven time and time again that without us making loads of noise, screaming and shouting and getting that atmosphere booming, these players can't perform. The majority of them are confidence players, and the majority of them can only perform, or certainly only perform, to give that extra 5 or 10% when the fans are fully behind them, as shown in the game against Arsenal and as shown many a times over the years. You go back and watch a game that you remember there being a good atmosphere at, and listen to any of the post-game interviews from any of the players. The first thing they talk about is atmosphere. They don't talk about performance, they don't talk about they talk about atmosphere. Look at the atmosphere, it was great, they were the 12th man today. At the end of the day, the board aren't fit for purpose. A lot of the players aren't fit for purpose. The manager, whoever it may be, mightn't be good enough, mightn't be the right man for the job, whatever. At the minute, I am just absolutely petrified that Everton could be relegated this season. And every single time we're at Goodison Park now, I think we need to make as much noise as possible. We need to leave there with sore throats. We need to leave there feeling like we've done our bit. And I honestly think if we do that, the players will do their bit. And if they don't, then we can leave the ground and go, do you know what, we done our bit. And it's hard, it is hard. And Saturday was a perfect example of it, because we all went into Saturday thinking the atmosphere will be great here, it'll be amazing, Dunk's in charge, this will be a boss day. And it wasn't. The atmosphere was flat. And the atmosphere was grim, and there wasn't much noise. And all of that is because of the situation that the board have put us in, the anxiety, the nervousness, the sort of worry that is around the football club at the moment because of the situation that we're in. But as I said earlier, we spend 7 days a week anxious, worried about Everton. I'm sitting here now, anxious and worried about Everton. I'll go to bed tonight, I'll be the same. Everybody else will be. We spend every other period of time anxious, worried and frustrated and annoyed about Everton. For that 90 minutes, whilst we're in that stadium, we need to forget about all of that and make it horrible for the opposition and get behind these players. Because A, these players will react to that and are more likely to give that extra 10% and are more likely to get a result out of it. But also B, the opposition team, as Ped said earlier today, are more likely to not be able to deal with that. Everton Football Club, this team can't perform in that situation. If we go away from home and an opposition team are making shitloads of noise, we flap. We flap. And most teams will do that in this league. We've got a lot of winnable games at Goodison against teams that if we go out there as a fan base and we make it horrible for them and we back those players, that manager, and more importantly, back our football club. As I said, we need to do this now as fans. We need to take responsibility. We need to take it into our own hands. Because the board will go at some point, the players will go, the manager will go. We're the one constant. We don't want to see our football club relegated. We don't want to see our football club in the Championship next season. So what I would say to every Blue watching, and I'm not trying to rally cry or I'm not trying to manage anything or tell people what to do, but have the protests, have your sit-ins, have your frustration, have a protest before the game, have a protest after the game, have all of that. But for that, have a protest on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You know, have your thoughts on the board. Keep doing that. Keep doing that. Because ultimately, that is, you know, that shows the club that we're not happy. Which we're not, because the way it's being ran is a disgrace. But for them 90 minutes, we need to channel every bit of that emotion and anger and frustration and turn it into positive energy towards this team. And that doesn't mean throwing bottles at players. That doesn't mean getting angry and screaming and shouting. That means singing, screaming at, you know, if the referee makes a bad decision, get on his back. If a player makes a great tackle, get up and scream behind it. Because that's what these players need us to do, and that's what we need to do. And if we still go down, or the players still lose, or they still don't give everything, we can leave the ground and go, do you know what? We give it all there today as fans. They weren't interested, or they weren't good enough, but we give it all. I left Goodison last Saturday and thought, could we have done better? Could we have done better as a fan base? Could we have given more? Had we have given more, would we have gotten more out the game? Would the players have pushed that extra 10%? Probably, because they've been known to push that extra 10% in the past when the atmosphere has been great, and not push that extra 10% when the atmosphere hasn't been too good. So that's the one thing I really, really would say. I'm not going to sit here and tell people to do certain things or advise people to do certain things or to not do certain things. But one thing I would say is if you've got the amazing opportunity to go and watch Everton between now and the end of the season, I know that the norm feeling at the minute is anxiety and anger and frustration and disappointment and worry. But we have to channel all of that into positivity. Positive energy. Not throwing bottles, not screaming and shouting, not trying to fight with people in the stands. Get behind the team. Even if you don't like the players or you don't like the manager, get behind it. Because what's more important than liking the players and the manager at the moment is Everton staying in the Premier League and Everton winning games of football. And as I said, sit-ins, fine. Protests after the game, fine. But for that 90 minutes, let's not focus on the board, because fuck the board for that 90 minutes. Fuck them. It's got nothing to do with them. They're not on that pitch. They've not got, ultimately for that 90 minutes, they've not got, they haven't got a decisive decision in ultimately what goes on at the football, on the pitch at that time. They've got, obviously every responsibility for what goes on behind the scenes and why it's led to the situation on the pitch. But on that pitch at that time, they can't do anything. Bill Kenwright can't do anything. Managerial can't do anything. The players' responsibility, and the players will feel that pressure that every Evertonian is feeling of the anxiety and the nervousness. So if we get behind it, scream and shout and make it an absolute bear pit, the players will get behind that. And we're more likely to get results. And that's all we need at the moment. All we need at the moment is results. Because I can't lie. Any anxiety about a manager or about players or any of that at the moment, I'm just sort of, all as I can worry about at the minute is will Everton be a Premier League team next season. And I know for me, every time I'm at Goodison Park now, I'm going to make it an absolute horrible, horrible place for the opposition to come, and I'm going to get behind my football club and our football club, because that's what our football club needs at the moment. Some people might choose to not do that, but I think that's what we've got to do. We've got to take some responsibility as fans now to get behind the club, to get the to get the atmosphere up, to get behind the players that you might want to get behind. So if Rondon comes on, instead of moaning, oh, fucking hell, Rondon coming on again, you get behind it, you scream, you shout, you battle. Every time he chases the ball, you're in it, you, come on. Every single time. Because other players will react to that, and he'll react to that, and other players that you mightn't necessarily want to see come on will react to that as well. Because at the end of the day, it's not about whether we like a manager or whether we like some players at the moment, or whether we this, whether we that, whether the other. It's about Everton staying in the Premier League. I'm just so fearful that mightn't be a situation. I am, I must admit. Robert Krug says, Cameron from the USA, and this is the only and first club I started watching and loving, watch every week for the past 13 years, but this group is killing the spirit in the club as a whole, yeah. Pereira out graffiti before he's even in shows the mess the club is in. Well, yeah, it does. RXI couldn't win a free apple pie when the McDonald's promos are on, never mind the cup. Interesting. FA Cup says, I think somebody asked me, imagine we won the FA Cup, that would be amazing. Can we win the FA Cup? We can. By the mere fact that we're still in it. Will we is a different question. I feel sorry for Pereira. If he got the job now, at least he knows what the fans expect. Yeah, true. I'm not going to do a poll, Don, on whether people think we go down, because I think most people think we're going down at the minute. But 160 people have voted on the poll for Lampard or Pereira, and 89% want Lampard. So, interesting. If you haven't voted, get your votes in. If you're watching and you're enjoying, please hit that like button. We're 8 away from 100. If you could get it to 100 before we finish, that'd be amazing. Gavin says, won't make Rondon run any fast, but it might do, though. It might do. Subconsciously, he might think, Canelli's are behind me here, I'm going to give that extra bit, I'm going to work. And it shouldn't be like that. Players should give absolutely everything, no matter what the atmosphere is like. But that's not how football works. That's not how human beings work. Ask any athlete, any top-level sportsman, they'll say that if they've ever come onto a football pitch or a rugby pitch or whatever, and fans have booed them or not or been against it, they'll say sometimes their attitude changes and they'll go from, well, I'm not really interested then. Whereas everyone's behind them subconsciously, you go, I'm gonna give that bit more here. I'm gonna run until I can't run anymore. Instead of I'm gonna run a bit to make it look like I'm doing something, but I'm not actually gonna do much. But yeah, maybe it's just me. Yeah. Paul says need to win the next 2 Premier League games at least to ever the manager. Yeah, you're spot on. Only constant flow in our club is us fans. We're going to be here. We need to make as much noise as we can with our voices. No violence. We need to back our lads at 1,000%. Now, wait, Everton says EFC Lisa. Spot on. Gavin says, I think he does try his best. His legs are gone. I agree. But I think that every one of these players could give a bit more. I do. Gavin says, I want Lampard in. Never thought I'd say that. Yeah, I'm struggling sleeping, says Cheek. Sorry about that, mate. Barry says, well said, Cam, audible for the opposition. Yeah, Cam out of the 2 candidates. I want Lampard, not Vito. Everton have to gotta get it. Yeah, fair enough. Charlie says, some of the stuff you speak, lad, is amazing. Keep it up and agree with everything you said. Thank you very much, my mate. I appreciate it. I really, really do. But yeah, listen. Cam, you do understand in a bear pit, the bear gets killed, says John. Well, we're not the bear at the moment, are we? We're the opposite to the bear, so I didn't understand that, but I'm going to blag I did. Love your rally cry, but you're going to have a headache, lad. Yeah, but I hope, do you know what? I hope I leave Goodison Park. If you say to me, Cam, you leave Goodison Park next week, we'll do the Leeds game. Let's say we go to Newcastle and we win. Let's say we win. And then you say to me, Cam, you leave Goodison Park after that Leeds game with a sore throat. I'd say I'll take that because I think Everton win that game. Because that means the atmosphere's being great, everything's being and I think the better the atmosphere, the more likely we are to win games. It's just, that's how it is. But yeah, anyway, look, we are going to finish it there then. Sorry I didn't get involved with all of the live comments. How much do you think the likelihood of us going down if Pereira gets it are? I really don't know. But it's a massive, massive risk. And I think if he gets it now off the back of the Sky interview, it would be a surprise for me. We are going to finish it there then. I do apologise that I haven't read all of the live comments. Let's finish the poll then and we'll get involved with the results of that in a second. Yeah, I've had a long, busy day. I'm sure you can all appreciate. And there's been a lot of news and a lot of stuff to get through. The poll is in. Lampard or Pereira, 88% of people out of 172 votes wanting Frank Lampard instead of Vítor Pereira. So that tells you everything about where the fan base is sat at the moment in regards to the two leading candidates. So there you go. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. We'll be back tomorrow with another live stream, so don't forget to subscribe and look out for that one. Massive thanks to everybody in the live comments. Really do appreciate it. If you're watching the YouTube video, please leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and we'll get involved with as many of them as we can. Massive thank you all for watching. Smash the like, says Unknown. Cheers, mate. Up the toffee, says Philip. Eugene says he about the toffees is right. I think either of them keep us safe, says Queensbury. Let's hope so, mate. Let's hope so. Big thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.